Hey everybody, good to be back with you again. I was just thinking about normally at the end of the summer, kind of where we're at in the church is we are gearing up and planning for the fall. And a lot like school, we kind of come back, we have our rally day, we get our people back in sort of the routine of life. Vacations have kind of ended, people are coming back from all kinds of places, and they start setting up these patterns. Families go back to school, people get in their routines, and the church launches its fall programming. Right? The choirs are back, activities commence. It's the fall. We're kind of back in action. But this year is not a normal year. So, like everything that we're kind of figuring out these days is what's going to happen. I hope that people will re-engage. I know if you've taken kind of that summer time to get away and take a break, that's normal, that's natural, but think about what you would normally be doing in the fall. Getting re-engaged in your faith life, and even more so, thinking about what that looks like intentionally in a whole new way. I've been thinking a lot about falling down. That's what I'm naming this talk today. Falling down hurts. It's not easy, but it's a matter of what happens after you've fallen down. I want to tell you a little story about my grandmother. She's an amazing woman. I used to go over to her house regularly and see her. I would mow her yard. I would stop in. Sometimes she'd be there and sometimes she didn't. And normally I had a key, but when I would forget my keys, I would always have this way that I would scale her rock wall, and I would reach over and open up her window, her bathroom window, and kind of shimmy through it, and then dive in and do this roll to get into her house, which was kind of a big deal as a teenager. I could make that happen. I was skinny and nimble. I think it would be different nowadays. I remember this time though, in which my grandma locked herself out of her own house, and she had remembered. She says, what does my grandson do to get in? And she looked at that window and she scaled that rock wall over the hedge, found the window, opened it up, and then I don't even know how she fit in, but she shimmied her way into the bathroom window. The problem was, once she had gotten up to that point, she looked down and the die had been cast, and she had to go down face first. And so she went down and she landed, kind of crash landed, and then fell on her back and just laid there in some pain. And when she regales this story, she tells it like, I remember just sitting there thinking, this is the end. I can't move. I can't get to a phone. People are going to come days from now and find me dead here. This is the end. And she sat there and she thought and she pondered, and your mind kind of goes in all kinds of places. And eventually, after a long time, she simply got back up. And I remember that story. First of all, it's one of my favorite stories about my grandma. She's a tough woman, always has been. But it's emblematic of where we find ourselves in this time and place. It feels like we have fallen down hard. We've tried to be creative. We've fallen down hard in 2020. And it's like we're sitting there stuck with only thoughts racing through our heads about this is how it ends. Kind of moving into that hopelessness. A lot of fear, a lot of anxiety. And I hope in that time that our brains don't just go to fear and anxiety, but also to hope. And that God eventually moves us into this place of hope, and we simply get back up and imagine what it's like to be the church in these new ways. We have an opportunity in this time and place to remember that God is still moving. God is the healer of life, that when we fall down, God not only is there when we're down, but also reaches his hand to pick us back up. And so if you're feeling down right now and out and stuck, know that God is with you in that place, that it's not hopeless, and that God is the one who makes the blind see, and the dumb speak, and the lame walk. And so I hope God is doing that with our church here today. You know, as I think about whatever infirmities we have, God is a healing God. I know I've got my own mind that races and thinks about what is the future going to, have in store. It can be a hopeless thought process. Is there any end in sight the longer this goes on? And I'm reminded that as I ask myself those questions, it's not the end. People still are asking me, why don't we just reopen? Why don't we just start open? I think it's time. It's been too long. And I'm just going to remind you that we've got these metrics in place. It's not a subjective thing. Our council has really looked at establishing those metrics in our regathering process to have that 14-day downward trend, and we're still not there. I know it feels like, 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Who knows what's going to happen with school opening, but it looks like we're starting to go down again. We're going to keep monitoring that faithfully and letting you know what's in store. What about just the disconnect of feeling apart from folks? I want to remind you guys that call people up on the phone. We have people that are calling. We have communications that are going out from the church. We have ministry teams that are reimagining ways to get back up and engage in church life. And this is an opportunity for us. So if you're feeling disconnected, we have a chance to get involved again in a new way. Look for those opportunities and try something new. Maybe you're feeling alone, right? And I know when I start feeling alone, it feels like the weight of all this is on my shoulders, and it's just too much. And I have to take a step back and remember, we are the church together, right? We are a people of hope walking together. And yeah, it's tough. I'm not pretending that this is an easy cakewalk these days. It's tough. But I recognize there's so many of us out there walking together in faith and recognizing we've got each other's backs. So I'm praying for you. I hope you're praying for me. And that if you have a concern, if you're frustrated, if you're tired, man, reach out to the church. We want to support you. And there might be someone who needs to reach out to you so that you can support them. Finally, there's a question that gets on my mind. I just feel like church isn't the same, right? It's not the same. And that's true. We're doing some different things right now. But I want to tell you what is the same: the mission. We're still Peace Lutheran Church, called to love God, love people, and serve the world. And that's not going to change. Just the ways that we do it might. And so I'm just going to continue to double down and invite you to imagine together who we are as the church with the same mission, but living into that mission in new ways. Look for more of those opportunities to come. As God's Spirit moves, just know that we're in this together. And if you feel like you're lying flat on your back, stuck, God is there. God will raise you up. And together we're going to recognize that we're not alone. God is with us. So peace be with you. Let's close with prayer. Gracious God, as we find ourselves in difficult positions as this coronavirus thing continues to go on, as we deal with our own anxieties and frustrations and our unfulfilled hopes that we haven't been able to regather quite yet, sustain us. Give us the power to endure. Give us the intentionality to connect with one another in these new ways, and help us to stay focused on your mission, that we might continue to love you and to love people and serve the world that you love. We lift this up all in the name of Jesus.